It's 8:38 this morning. Alan Quinlan is with us. Alan, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How are you?
The debate about the decision making for the kick to the corner versus kicking for the points. I understand that, but let's just zoom out a little bit and take those kind of final 8-9 minutes in its totality. It seems like we weren't as efficient, and it seems like our decision making generally wasn't great. Now, we say that from the comfort of our couches. You've been in those environments. Why were Ireland maybe less capable of executing their game plan at a high level during those final few minutes?
Well, not just the final few minutes, Jared. Probably throughout the whole game, the breakdown was an issue. The ball was a little bit slower. The speed of the ball coming back to Gibson Park firstly, and then Conor Murray when he came on, that was a problem. So a lot of people are talking maybe about the leadership and the decision to go for the penalty rather than kick to the corner in the 72nd minute. But look, I thought they showed great leadership and great character in that second half. France are a very good side, just made it really difficult for them. So not being able to impose their game plan was down to French defence and the pressure they put on Ireland. There's some decisions they look back on when they analyse the game. They were a little bit deep at times in the back line, and then some of the forwards were a little bit flat, taking it into heavy traffic around the corners. So culmination of things and small margins came up against them. 18 turnovers in the game is way too much.
The penalty count in the first half in particular just allowed France to keep the scoreboard ticking over when we really needed not to give them opportunities to score. And sometimes the penalty being conceded was actually the best outcome because it looked like they were going to score a try against us. Just to go back to the end, like we actually kicked the ball away pretty much with like 45 seconds left to go. The type of decision making that isn't normally associated with this team.
Yeah, I said it in commentary, and when Hugo Quinlan got the ball, the French scrum half kicked it downfield. Quinlan has a lot of time. Andrew Conway indicated straight away to him, obviously verbally and physically with a hand indication to put it up in the air. The only explanation to that is he didn't know that there was only 40 seconds left in the game. It was a time where Ireland had to try and run back and go and win the game. So yeah, when you're out in the field, 81,000 French people, well, there's 4,000 or 5,000 Irish, but over 70,000 French people screaming and roaring. It's difficult. They didn't know what was left in the clock, and sometimes when you don't have the ball and France are defending and they made it very difficult, and the way they defended, they had shooters coming up from the outside blocking off passing channels and stuff like that. Damien Penaud did it a lot from his side of the wing. Anton Dupont was a shooter out of the line so many times, and he made so many effective tackles and stopped Ireland's attack. So yeah, it's just down to pressure, Ger, some of the decision making, and France are a very, very good side. So it was disappointing, the results, but I think there's a lot of positives there. And if Ireland were to play France again next week, if it was a back-to-back fixture like we see in Europe, I think they'd get some of these things right and better, and it'd still be a very, very close game, I think. But some of those things, and France were very, very effective. They didn't play a lot of rugby at times. They kicked the ball a lot up the middle of the field, and they relied on their power game and their pressure, particularly around in those physical exchanges.
Is the sense that France are also improving at the moment, Alan, that if you played that game a couple of different times, that France would also learn from the experiences?
Probably. Would they attack more? Ireland defended very, very well. If you look at the two French tries, I think, the first one is a quick line out and they come back right across the field, and there's plenty of Irish numbers there. When Intimac kind of throws that pass in field, on another day that could have been picked up by an Irish player. It was speculative. Dupont runs those inside lines all the time. That's why he scores a lot of tries like that. James Ryan was covering Mofana, and Ronan Kelleher was the next Irish player inside, and he just kind of switched off a little bit, and the ball landed perfectly into the hands of Dupont. So they got fortunate, but you get fortunate with those ones when you pass in field and somebody's running a line like that. And then the other one, the Cyril By one, Ireland were in possession 10, 15 yards out from their own line, won the line out, Doris carries, and Ireland are just that little bit high at that breakdown. Something they're really good at, exiting from their own 22. And, Tau Fefenua, he kind of lifted Josh van der Fleer out of it. The ball shoots out the side of the ruck and they score. So would they get better? Probably on, but I think you never know. Like both sides were going to defend very, very strong against each other, and that's what good sides do. So I think Ireland looked more dangerous in attack, even though France were scrambling across a lot of the time, and they stopped Ireland from making. Like at one stage, Hugo Quinlan went up the middle of the field with a great counter attack, and he nearly got his hands free to a supporting Irish player, only for Dupont making the tackle. There was last minute brilliant tackles from him throughout that game. He's just a phenomenal player. Gets spoken about a lot in attack and what he does, and rightly so, but defensively he does so much work for France. So yeah, France would maybe improve again, but would Ireland get better at the breakdown? And is there anything you can do about that power? You can probably Ireland could be a little bit more shrewd in moving that point of attack a little bit wider. They were quite narrow in some of their carries, and that helped France.
Is there anything you can do about the power? Like, does Henderson come in for Tadhg Beirne? Tadhg Beirne is a far superior skill set, a far superior rugby player, but he doesn't have the power that Henderson does. Henderson's hands are nowhere near as good as Tadhg Beirne, so it's not like there's a perfect scenario here, is there?
No, there's not. You can't just invent, that ballast that maybe some teams have. South Africa have it, France have it, and you take Willems off and Walkie, and they bring on Flamand and Tau Fefenua, who, that kind of size and strength just gives them more of an advantage there. But overall, the front row, aside from Antonio and Willems, they're the two big brutes who do a lot of damage. I don't think it's a major concern. Henderson, when he came on, showed, he stripped a couple of balls. He's very powerful and strong. And yeah, you're right.
Sorry, is there a world where you play them both for the France game, for a South Africa game, but for a New Zealand game you don't, where Beirne moves to 6 and whoever moves to 8, it's either Conan keeps his place or Doris plays 8, starts, and Conan moves to the bench, and that's your back row cover then is either Caelan Doris or Conan, and that for these games you decide that you're going to get the extra strength and you'll maintain the ball playing skills, and you lose a little bit in terms of mobility, but not much, and that's just it. That's the deal you make with the devil.
It's a possibility, I think, but just going back to your question on the power, Ger, I just think that particularly in the first half, Ireland needed to move it at the attack a little bit wider. I think there was a couple of carries from our back row that they just got smashed in the gain line. And it's down to the initial point of contact. France made it a nightmare at the breakdown. And that's an area that'll disappoint Ireland, because they probably need, I think there's more of a need to just be more efficient in your first point of contact. And Ireland did that so well in the second half. Okay, they still had some turnovers. I think the penalty kind.
Oh, the line's gone. The penalty count was not great in the first half.
Mm-hmm. No, it certainly wasn't. It's an interesting one, isn't it? The conversation around Ireland's power, it's different to a couple of years ago, but it's also kind of the same. Isn't it? Ireland are a very different team now, but there is a sense of deja vu.
Well, when we were talking with Ron Regar last week, it's like, the question was how do you stop their 9 and 10, but actually the question needs to be how do you stop that giant front five?
Yeah,
which is the same question that Leinster have had, which is the same question that Ireland had against England. It's different because this French team, I would say, are better than that England team. Like, they're certainly more creative. Alan's back. Sorry, you were making the point about the penalty count in the first half. That's where we lost you.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of those penalties that were very harsh in Ireland. The Andrew Conway one in the first half, where Angus Gardner said he hit Jaminet in the air. There was certainly two in the second half that there wasn't any clear release, the breakdown. That just could, on another day, could have went towards Ireland. So, but when your penalty kind is higher than the opposition, that doesn't help either.
What would your game plan be now with the out half situation? I mean, Joey Carberry, I felt anyway, really came into the game. Like, as much as you can argue about how good or otherwise he was, I definitely felt that he was better later in the game than earlier in the game. So is that a sense that, you got to keep playing this guy, and maybe Italy is actually an audition for the starting jersey for the final two games?
Yeah, but I think Johnny Sexton would probably need a game. I think what we saw from Joey Carberry was that we saw a lot of positives, and this will be, beneficial in the future for him. Probably to get used to the speed and the pace of what Ireland did in November and against Wales last week, particularly taking the ball to the gain line. I think that's an area maybe that he will look at, and the Irish backline will look at, that sometimes we were a little bit deep, and do you keep playing him? I don't know. I think it's over 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks till we play Italy. Johnny Sexton wouldn't have played then since the Welsh game. There probably is there's for and against. I'm not sure. I think Sexton, the way he played against Wales and the way he played in November, still makes this Ireland team better. But I was really encouraged by what Joey Carberry did. Some people were saying, I was looking at some stuff online, just because he didn't mess up didn't mean he had a good game. Well, he still did lots of good things. I think he was a little bit nervous of not making big mistakes by throwing passes or pushing the boundaries a little bit. I think he was very solid and secure, and there was lots of good moments from him, but probably Sexton probably had the confidence to go and do things a little bit quicker and a little bit closer to the gain line, particularly in the backline attack.
Who's making the call then to kick for the corner or to kick the points? Because it looked like there was a four-man conflab.
Yeah, I think there was James Ryan, wasn't there? Carberry was there. Conor Murray had an input. There was 3 or 4 Irish players around him. I think it's down to James Ryan. There was no one came in with water or anything like that, or any. There wasn't any messages from the sideline. I think it was down to James Ryan, because Carberry would have probably done whatever he wanted. Conor Murray had some input on it. I thought the corner was the better option. It was probably looking, if Ireland brought it back to 3 points and then they'd still have to score a try to win the game, another penalty would give them a draw. Would that have been better than a bonus point loss? For sure. So you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. But my own opinion I would have went to the corner. I just thought Ireland were turning the screw there. We lost the line out. I think the indecision and the problems Ireland had at the line out earlier in the game probably dictated that. And maybe, Josh van der Fleer gets a maul try right after half time, doesn't he? And I just thought the one we lost where Tadhg kicked the ball through for that 50-22 was an incredible kick, and crossed the number 6 for France. He stole the line out. In my opinion, when you watch it back, this was a problem for Ireland throughout the game. There was no clear gap in the line out. France were throwing players across in the air, which you cannot do. And he came straight across that line out and stole it, slapped it back, and even fell way through on the Irish side. It should have been a clear penalty to Ireland. So maybe the decision around that and the frustration from James Ryan, because he was speaking to Angus Gardner a few times about France coming across in the line out, and it wasn't refereed by him. So the decision to go for the post maybe was dictated probably by that.
Is that the type of thing that James Ryan just gets better at and more forceful and more convincing of referees as he gets practice at this? Or is that just Angus Gardner decided, well, that's how I'm going to referee today and I'm not going to listen to anything?
Yeah, James Ryan will get better. It comes with experience. He's captain Ireland a few times, and it's getting a feel for the moment. Look, if they go to the corner and
sorry, I mean influencing the referee about whether or not the line-out's being refereed properly as opposed to the corner decision. Is that the type of thing that Sexton doesn't put up with, and so therefore it's like you have to look at this, you know? And
there's a way of saying that, and I thought he should have been more forceful in the first half. If you go back and watch the first line-out of the game, there was absolutely no gap. And even balls Ireland won in the line-out, the gap was being closed, they were being interfered with in the air. And that was in numerous line-outs. It wasn't just one or two. He spoke to Waukee, who Craig Evans, the assistant referee, intervened after the second or third line-out. And Angus Gardner, because I can hear it on the ref mic, he's speaking to Waukee saying, don't come across the line-out like that again. Like, it's not if you come across the line-out and you commit the offence, you should be penalised.
Yeah.
You don't it was no good to Ireland. And there was a few times James Ryan, he probably needs to be a bit more forceful out in the open to say that, you know, this is none or whatever. And credit to France. I do it myself.
Oh, look.
I probably have done it. But it unsettled Ireland's attack.
Yeah.
And it caused a problem. And I guarantee you, in the review for Angus Gardner, this will come up. It'll come up that this should have been refereed better. He had, you know, look, people, it isn't sour grapes for me. I think there was things there that Ireland would easily highlight that weren't right.
Yeah, well, in fairness, you said it during the commentary, so it's not sour grapes. We could have won the game. We'd still be saying the same thing, but in the long run, not the worst thing that there's like a little... The Jets are cooled, I think, from everybody's perspective.
Yeah, I think so. And look, it was always going to be a tough game, Jaron. I think the character they showed, the positives you can take out of the second half would indicate that, well, if they could do things a little bit better at the breakdown, figure out a way of moving France over and back a little bit, you know, could easily have won the game. I think the big turning point, okay, when Ireland are 22-7 down, you think the game is going to get away from great character to come back. But that Cyril Boyd try in the second half was the one killer that really kind of killed it.
All right, Alan, we'll leave it there. Thanks a million. Cheers.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.
That's Alan Quinlan. You'll hear him on the Red 78 podcast this week. You can subscribe to the Red 78 wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, you can find it in the OTB Rugby stream as well. OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors.